Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in your speech, in conduct, in love, in faith and in purity. It seems as though people now see Christianity as something practiced by the older generation and not seen as something that could be easily translated for the younger generation. There are many different beliefs and religions in this world. One belief that the majority agree with is that when you are young, you are naive. Easily suggestible to believe anything with the right argument, follow our feelings and not logic. Well, here's the story of 3 young Christians who aim to challenge that belief. Just because we're young doesn't mean we don't stand up and fight for what we believe in. They're not swayed by the latest trends or fashions. Here's their story.
When I was about 11, my mum one day just randomly went, "Oh, I want to take you all to church." So we went, and as soon as I got there, it just felt like I had come home. Is the only way I can really describe it. And then we went for a few months as a family, but then slowly, one by one, my family stopped coming, but I still stayed. So I backslid a few times, but it's always been my choice to be a Christian and to choose to follow Christ.
I came to Christ back in 2016 July at our youth conference called Frontline All Nations, and I was listening to Pastor Steve preaching, and something changed in my heart when he said, "Do you want to give your life to Christ?" And next thing you know, I found myself walking all the way to the front and just giving my life to Christ. Shortly after the conference, I started to backslide. I didn't really want to be Christian anymore. It was kind of felt too much to do. And then during November 2017, I ended up going to a party where I got slashed in the face, and it's really then when I felt that God really did love me, because I ended up going to hospital and in New Cross, and there was no one there at New Cross to stitch up my face, to do anything, and I was there praying like I thought my face was going to be deformed. I thought I was never going to be normal again. And then I heard that they were getting someone from Birmingham's Children's Hospital to come all the way down to Wolverhampton, New Cross, to stitch up my face, and that moment is when I realised God really did love me.
I chose to be a Christian. I chose to give my life to Christ first, and then I started doing things. I started to not necessarily believe in it. I always believed in Christianity. I just chose not to follow it. So I would go out, get drunk, smoke weed. I would do all the crazy things really that we do. I'd try experiment with loads of different kind of drugs. Wasn't a great time. I also suffered with an eating disorder and mental health issues, so that made me not want to follow Christianity even more and just do my own thing. But then when I was about 16, 17, I had a huge encounter with God where I wanted to end my life, but God intervened. And when I say intervened, I mean I just felt his presence so strongly that I just completely broke down. And I think that it was from that moment on I decided that this is it for me. I am a Christian. I want to follow it. I want to be a Christ follower. I want to give my life to this, because once you experience that, you're never the same again.
I was raised in a Christian home. Both my parents strong Christians, and that's the sort of environment that I grew up in. But like I said, as I grew up, started getting older, I started to question my own faith. Started to question, is God real? You know, I would sometimes pray and nothing would happen. I would sometimes try all this Christian stuff, but nothing seemed to work for me. But I would say at the age of 18, that's when it started to begin. For me, that's when the trials really began. At the field, my first job, I would say that's when it all began for me, because my first job was, I was working as an au pair. Long story short, a lot of things started to happen, and everything just seemed to did not work out, or anything I tried just did not work. And that's when I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, you know what, you need to pray, you need to ask God to help you, you need to ask Him to sustain you in this period of your time. But again, I started to be consistent in it, and long story short, again, I started to see God's hand really work through that period. I think the first thing God did was build that relationship between me and the kid, and we just had to have this moment. It was like slowly growing. The issues were still happening, but that relationship was growing. Eventually, he became my best friend, and I became his best friend, and he used to give me gifts all the time.
I need a friend closer than a brother. That's why he can say what's on my mind. His wings were made to fly away. It's never too late to release my cage. I will be stronger than today. My name will be.
My faith comes from, well, after being slashed in the face, really. It was then I realised that there is someone out there that generally is doing stuff, like certain things that you think wouldn't happen or you'd think are so coincidental. They happen, and it's God moving, and those type of things really do remind you that He's there, remind you that He's listening when you pray to Him, when you ask Him for certain things in your heart.
Faith comes from, and what sustains my faith, being a young Christian, is my identity in God. So I've always had faith in God. I've always believed there's a God out there. I've always believed in Jesus being the Son of God, and He died on the cross for me. My childhood wasn't a normal childhood. It was very interesting. So my parents divorced when I was very young, and then my mum remarried, and my stepdad wasn't great, and then my dad remarried, and my stepmom, our relationship wasn't great to begin with. But yeah, going through what I went through as a child was very difficult, but something in me always knew that there was still a God out there. And then as soon as I came to church, like I said, it just felt like home. It was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. And then just growing in my knowledge of who God is and who I am in God. I mean, the Bible tells me that God took His time on me. He created me in my mother's womb, like I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, as you may hear a lot. It's that sustains my faith, and so when tough times come, when I'm tempted by my surroundings, when I just want to do what other young people do and go live life, as they say, it's knowing what God has done for me, and how much He loves me. That's what sustains my faith. That's where it stems from.
Yeah, to have a discerning heart. I feel like the Holy Spirit really just works in your heart, and just speaks to you during that moment. You shouldn't be doing this, or need to speak to that person, or you need to make time for the Word. Instead of just sit down and watch Netflix and entertain yourself all day long. Make time for people. Be selfless, which I feel is one of the hardest things to do nowadays, because everyone is so selfish. And it does become a challenge when the whole world is against the whole Christian belief. But I think it's time for us to just stand out, to really be the light of this world, because this world needs people like us to just be there for them, because there's a lot of hurting people, and seeing someone's life being changed, I think, does inspire me to continue this faith in today's society.
Monica, Liam and Webster. 3 different people who've had 3 different journeys with their faith. It's had its highs and lows, but that's what it's like being a Christian today. not swayed by trends or the latest fashions around them, but solely living for God.
My goal is to be strong when the hard times come.